Good evening and welcome to our September central meeting of the MelbPC Users Club. We have a small number of people in the room as is usual, and a much larger number online, and we welcome everybody, especially those who are joining us for the first time or the first time for a while. Tonight we've got a fairly busy program, good program. I'll introduce our guest speaker in a moment, and then after the guest speaker, Jeff Amor's going to talk to us about Be Connected, which I'm actually looking forward to. We will have a break. Those of us who are in the room will enjoy a raffle. Those of you who are at home, you can do your own raffle. We will hear from our president. John Hall will tell us what the Wadham House SIG is all about. It's not really a SIG, it's a GIG. It's a general interest group now, because they cover a range of topics. Then Harry Lewis is going to talk to us about Cloud Drive, and we're going to finish a bit later tonight. We want to finish no later than 9:15, and a Q&A with Harry Lewis can continue after that, so long as people wanted to do so, but we'll formally close the meeting at 9:15 and ask that all of those who are participating please keep to the time schedule that Kirsten's given you, because we will finish at 9:15 no matter what. Having said that, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, who is Dolly Daou. Have I said that right, Dolly? Oh, how about that? Dr Dolly Daou. Dolly describes herself as an academic, an educator, as an entrepreneur. And I won't read all of the blurb, but through her international consultancy, she offers design strategy and workshops to entrepreneurs and to organisations and institutes to improve their growth strategy and their innovative portfolio to achieve ecological and economical benefits, specifically in the management of food systems and resources. So what's all that about? Dolly is about to tell us. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr Dolly Daou.
Thank you so much for this lovely introduction. And I would like to add also, I'm proudly Citizen of the Year for the Kingston Council this year. So very proud to be part of this, this beautiful community where everyone is welcome and everyone feels this sense of belonging. So just a very brief background. My background is interior design, that's my profession, and I did my doctorate in urban design, architecture, anthropology in these fields, and on community resilience and cities after reconstruction of cities. And then I've led nonprofit organizations overseas, internationally. My career path took me to France, where I specialized in food innovation and systems, looking at how we're going to feed the planet in the future, in 2050. So we've done a lot of research and industry-based projects with industry in circular economy, ecosystems, food products, packaging, food systems, and of course, entrepreneurship education is what I instill these values in my students in Australia and overseas. And I've established the interior architecture program at Swinburne with sustainability at the time when I was at Swinburne, with two values, sustainability and entrepreneurship, to instill values of initiatives and professional integrity in students, how they're going to change their environments. So based on this, I'm going to be leading the way with technology. What does that mean? This is what humanity has done all their lives. From the moment we were in the caves until now, we have always led our way to live, to inhabit this planet by inventing new technology. And here with technology, I don't just mean high tech or computers or applications. I mean any new invention that allows us to apply tools to live a better life, to improve our quality of life. So before I start, I would like to acknowledgement of country, acknowledging the Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation as traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. And copyrights are reserved to myself in many of these projects and protecting my intellectual property and that of the students as well, which is why I did not show the process, because I'll be giving their intellectual property away. So I'm only showing the outcome. So before I start, I would like to have an open question to the audience of what design is to you. When you hear the word design, what's the first thing that springs to mind? Could not have given a better definition. Yes, form follows function. Yes, of course. Scandinavian design are the best. Making stuff that looks good and works well. Keep it simple. That's it. Yeah. That's it. So I have been asked to actually write a peer-reviewed article for a Italian design journal. It's called Out of the Mainstream, documenting my career trajectory, which is out of the mainstream. And to me, not design definition, but the role of design is to contest, question, and analyze existing mainstream patterns, meanings, and habitat to innovate the new. Then through application, out of the mainstream becomes the mainstream, which is the norm. And that is the link to technology. Because through technology, we are inventing something that is not the norm now, but it's an innovation of questioning our lifestyle, the way we do things, and how technology can improve that through evolving this technology as well. So I have learned that the essence of design is to push boundaries, which is how I've lived my life, I guess. To me, design is a way of life. It's not something that I think about it now and I don't think about it in a second. It's how I innovate with solution-driven innovation, calling problems challenges and opportunities to innovate rather than problems or a block. So I live with design. We've been trained as an interior designer for 4 years, rewiring my brain to think innovation, to innovate every day and draw inspiration out of everything. Doesn't mean that I've got my head in the cloud when I walk and I'm airy-fairy with nature, but I could be working on a project that is design strategy, for example, for a growth portfolio for an organization. And I would only get an inspiration once I talk to people or I might see an interaction of nature. My brain has been wired to draw this inspiration from anything I interact with. So it's a way of life. I wake up with that. So I have worked with blurring the boundaries and pushing boundaries between disciplines and cultures to innovate. Meaning in my PhD, I got urban design to talk to architecture, interior architecture. I've ran design research workshops for organizations, for example, big organizations, exhibition design, working with a group of 4 people from 4 different continents on how we're going to live in Mars. What would our life look like once we inhabit Mars? It's not based on misconceptions or misunderstanding of what science fiction tells us that Mars is going to look like, but on the conditions, pattern conditions in Mars and not doing the same damage to Mars as we're doing to Earth. And through technology, conversation between technology and design is allowing us to actually see this now. So food innovation, worked as community manager with the Innovation Council, using design methodologies, and of course, worked with robotics and drones. So based on that, you might think that working on such a big across disciplines like this, I would get lost. But I've never been more grounded in my life, because when you're working across, as a designer, you get given projects that you have to work across different disciplines. You might be designing a food lab one day and then an engineering lab the next. So you have to understand what you're designing for and the technology that you're going to apply. So what I think as technology to me might be different to someone who has worked in technology all their lives, because I'm not a technology expert. I'm a designer who uses technology or helps evolve the technology, working with technology experts. So how technology has evolved. I'll give you an example here that when we were university students, and that was in late 1990s, digital cameras were not invented yet. So we used to use magic tape to actually tape all the edges around the photographs. So we would when we have a photocopy, we would have a photocopy of a photo that has no edge and print a big board on that. So you can imagine the time consumption that it will take us to tape all the edges. When the digital camera was invented, all you have to do is take a photo, put it into Photoshop, print it, saving hours. So it's the same outcome, same philosophy, same creative outcome, but different process. And this is the evolution of technology to me in every discipline. Look at the pen that we're actually using. Same thing. Started with a charcoal, caveman, woman, and now it's a sophisticated tool that we use digitally or on paper. So that's the link between design and technology. The role of design is ergonomic, making things look well, make them look good, appealing for the consumers to buy them, and practical enough to use them based on ergonomic and specific measurements. With technology, creating the technology for designers to use. And I'll explain that in a second. So here's an example of a project that I've initiated with 3 universities, 24/7 global project where the idea never slept. We invented a drone for interior use, and the drone had sensors, which I will explain later. Thanks, Kirsten. We invented a drone so students would get an idea what the drone looks like, and we collaborated with mechatronics and robotics and mechatronics students, and that was a project that I did at Swinburne. The drone's still there on display. We designed a drone docking station that is adaptable to every city. So Parisians put it on the roof because there were no space. We put it on the lawn because we have a lot of urban space. And in New York, they placed it on the roof as well, but it was a different technique to actually. Parisian roof was very fragile, made out of wood, timber, and then the New York roof was made out of concrete. Different technology, different design, different adaptation. So it was featured, I've run it again in Dubai, and it was featured in the Emirates magazine that you would get when you hop on the Emirates plane. So food and technology, another idea of how food manufacturing has changed our daily habits and the way that we eat. We're eating mass-produced food on a big mass of distribution through our cities, channels, streets, infrastructure. In a second, you can actually order something from Amazon and it would arrive the next day, even food, because it's stored in huge quantity somewhere in Australia that gets it delivered to you. But this picture of my winning students, we won the gold for France, in France, first design lab in France, because we invented, my students were able to experiment with new food products, new chain of, new type of food that is only used for animals, but you could actually eat it. It's human, they managed to get it up to the stage where humans can consume it using technology in the lab and food manufacturing techniques with design students working with agro-engineers to create a new product and a new market for people to actually use a product that is good for the planet and healthy. This is a project between Mexico and France on replacing polyester plates using corn technology, corn product or corn waste. So I'm just whizzing through the food products because I know I'm going to be talking about the nuts and bolts of technology at the end, and I want to stick strict instructions from Kirsten to finish at 7:30. So racing. Okay, all right. This is a project that this is a project that I did in China, in Hangzhou, a beautiful city, 1 hour from to Shanghai by train. And it was a industry partner who approached me and said that they would like to make their packaging less traditional and more international. So I worked with the Academy of Fine CAA, China Academy of Arts, one of the biggest art institutes in China, to design a package that appeals to the international market and to the new generation of Chinese, young Chinese, because they were not buying their products. They looked at their products as too traditional with the packaging, but we used ecological packaging for this one. We had to go and look at the technology of the manufacturing of packaging and the measurements and the dimensions in order for us to collaborate with the industry partner and for the industry partner to agree to the design, the student's design. Because the idea was that at the end, they're going to be choosing 3 designs and changing their packaging according to these designs. We could not do this without looking, A, at ecological packaging technology, the manufacturing of the packaging, the technology that was available, and its dimensions, limitations, and challenges, and work within these, specific instructions. Another project I did, a workshop I did in China. By the way, the last year, all my projects have been in China when it comes to design and technology, because the technology there is extremely advanced. And I've been learning a lot from the students on what could be, what is possible. And they're very open to new ideas, so it's an experimentation ground. It's a 5-element workshop, multimedia design, to create a community awareness with the community, to show them where their food resources are coming from and how they're connected to their environment. So we based it on, again in Hangzhou, we based it on West Lake, which is one of the biggest lakes in China, and the biggest food resource is the food and water resource for Hangzhou. And when students did this project using traditional artisan Chinese drawing with ancient Chinese philosophy, because that's really vital for me to go back and look at how we do things, and multimedia technology to create a community awareness project and realize how their natural resources are feeding them, something they did not even realize. They've lived there all their lives. They did not know what the history of Westlake was until they did this project. So this is how you marry artisan art and design with advanced technology. Again, it's a point of connection with technology we've worked on during COVID. When COVID hit, the European economy was in big risk. And European Innovation Council rallied everyone and said, let's save the European economy through entrepreneurship initiatives. And we did a hackathon, matchathon, and I organized with 6 other ladies a lunchathon. Lunchathon is, we did the hackathon. It was an agglomeration of ideas. We selected 128 winners, teams from all around the world. And then matchathon, where we matched partners with the teams, potential stakeholders to fund them and give them visibility. And launchathon, out of the 128 teams, we ended up with 47 teams who made it, and we helped launch them into the market to become entrepreneurs. And all of that was done digitally because we could not move more than, I was in France at the time of COVID, 1 kilometer radius around my home. We did that in 3 days hackathon, 3 days matchathon, 3 days launchathon, from April to September. And you can see the figures, 2,235 new partnerships. We created digital rooms for innovation, for partnership, for funding, to create a stakeholder synergy. And it was just amazing. One of the biggest initiatives. This could not have been possible without technology. Not just technology to connect people together, but technology for the teams to innovate new health products, new educational products, new social impact, new businesses. Imagine the innovation synergy that was happening between different disciplines at the time. We were not differentiating between an engineer and a designer. We got together because we needed to save the planet at the time. We had no egos whatsoever. Everyone was equal, and we were just going, let's just design this. This is the idea how we could save, how we could create awareness for vaccine, how we could create an educational campaign for people, how we could create a new vaccine for people. Let's just put everything aside and just start innovating. And technology was the driver of this. I won't get into it, but if you would like me to, I can. Community competitions also, so that was all done digitally. We're creating a citizen of crisis competition globally. Within 24 hours, we were able to put up a competition and get different stakeholders from different countries and continents to participate. And a 12-year-old won the competition. Technology was the driver of this too. And this is a design competition. She was not a designer, but she had the awareness and the intelligence of children still unpolluted by limitation and judgment to actually design something that we needed to be reminded of. It was a house of tolerance for people to sit down and discuss their differences instead of creating wars, which was, to me, beyond her, like the depth of the actual subject was beyond her age. And we had university and research projects entering the competition as well. Design and entrepreneurship. Do you think that entrepreneurship could be possible without the evolution of technology? What drives entrepreneurship? Technology, or does entrepreneurship drive technology? Or do they drive each other? So this is a question that we could actually put up for discussion for the future keynote, to actually discuss about the relationship between design and entrepreneurship and how entrepreneurship helps evolve the technologies that we are experiencing today. From IBM to Microsoft to Apple, all started in somebody's garage, right? So I'm going to talk about sensors because it's design strategy leading with technology. This is what I've been researching for the past years, starting from the drone until now. So I'm going to mention sensors a lot, and something that Kirsten told me is that what are they and how they made. And so I'm putting that in there for anyone who does not know what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about when I mention sensors. In drones, the drone that you just saw, it was driven by sensors. So it could sense heat, it could sense body, and it was made for a specific reason, for interior design reason, right? So sensor is a device that detects and responds to a stimulus in an environment. A device can be A big, or something very small if you're talking about a ring, for example. It detects the stimulus, whether it's heat, whether it's movement, weight, pressure, sends it to a processor, and this processor can be made, this is where the designers and the engineers or mechanical engineers can work together. It sends it to the processor. This processor sends the data to an outlet or displays the information on the screen. Think of your alarm at home. It detects movement, it detects heat, it might detect visually someone's coming, takes the information, sounds an alarm, or sends the information to the police station, for example. So different types of sensors. You've got light, heat, motion, moisture, pressure, temperature, level of fluid, for example, the flow of fluid, like heartbeats and heart rates, proximity, conductivity, and thermochromic. My students invented they've just won an award with Alibaba in China because they invented a new e-textile that can detect diabetes, the level of diabetes in the body. So how do the e-textiles work? They have to be, they weave filaments, and these filaments have to have a conductive nature. So for example, nylon, cotton, silver, copper, they're all filaments that are weaved into the fabric to create this sensory experience. And they can actually send electrical, or they can actually have electrical transmitters like what you have with telecommunication. And they can be used in jewelry, textile, and patches. And like any other fabric, if you do wash, you can wash it, but if you do wash it, the fabric will be worn off, and then the livelihood of the sensors can deteriorate with every wash, of course. So this is what I wanted to explain before I go on, and I have steps of how the sensors work. So if you would like me to go into them, I'm happy to do that. Just giving you two different examples. For example, we have traffic data collection. Every time you drive on Aussie roads, the pressure of your car or your wheels are being detected by sensors in the road. And this information, this data is being sent to an outlet to record how many cars have been driven today, how many trucks, it's a data collection exercise. Another example is a fitness tracker. So it measures the heart rate using a sensor. The stimuli is the flow of the blood and the temperature, of course, and the heat. And then the sensor processes the data and displays it on its screen or sends the data to a smartphone via Bluetooth. This is an example. I'm not sure if you've seen this recently, the Twitter dress. It's a cute circuit. Nicole Scherzinger has actually designed this, where the model was walking and then you would see different colors on the dress as people were walking past her. It's because the dress was detecting heat from people who walk around the model, and they had heat sensors in there and visual sensors. So and chromatic sensor. It's I just want to get the terminology right. Thermochromic sensors, which means sensors that detect heat and change colors as people walk around the model. So if you would like to see this, you can Google it, and it's there. It's called the Twitter dress. This is what my students designed in China. It's health impact technology, where a hearing aid that you could use as a jewelry, and is being designed specifically for women, young women who are embarrassed to actually wear a hearing aid. So if they wear this as an earring, it could be more of a fashion statement, and they would not feel as embarrassed as, amongst their peers. But I'm just showing slight little snippet of the process. This is just 1% of the different experimentation that the design students had to go through, testing it on the ear ergonomically to see if it fits, what age group that earpiece fits. So it's been made for for a young lady between 17 to 25 or 30 years old. The sensors that they're going to be using, they've actually looked online to see what could fit into this, into the earpiece. And that's how the design process is made. So I can't use a device that's too big, and I can't use a processor that is too big. It has, the technology and the design has to work hand in hand for a, for a product that looks good and works well, as David said. Urban impact. Cycling app. So to record the cycling on the pathways in China, in Hangzhou. And it's an app to encourage people to cycle more to work. So the fun interface, they had the app icon. So every time somebody cycles, it gets recorded, and then they can actually see it online of how many mileage they've made per day, and it motivates them to cycle more. And a museum, interactive museum, to archive the drama records and documentation of Chinese drama records and representation of in Hangzhou. So as you know, we all have archives of theatrical history, cinematic history, and this museum is going to be an interactive museum where people can click on something, a character, and then it will come out in 3D, augmented reality, and talks to you. Exactly. Yeah, I do not discourage my students when they have ideas like this. I'll say, well, go out, and if it works, then design it. Show me that it works. And cultural impact. So again, this is another drama interactive multimedia display installation. So it's to record the artifacts, specific artifacts in China. They've created an entire multimedia display. So it detects heat. So as you walk around it, it changes color and it changes characters, and you become part of that character, if you like. So, so this is my presentation for today. Look at that. I think I'm 10 minutes late, but I can't see. No? So let's lead the way with technology using design, entrepreneurship, strategies, community projects, health, urban, architecture, engineering, drones, mechatronics, all the disciplines can get together to design projects like these to benefit the community, or as needed by the community. And the only way we can do that is to get close to the community, ask them what do they want, because as Ford said, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have told me more horses. But to know what we need to grow and evolve with the technology and with the community. So I just would like to put a quote in there that I've said about the creative process of design technology maps the path to new frontiers that are not yet written. It's up to us through our actions to lead the path with and to technology based on humanity. And that's the key word. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, and we certainly have time for questions. I was thinking when you were saying what comes first, the design or the entrepreneurship, and I was thinking about developments through history. Sometimes they're there because of problems that have got to be solved. Other times it's opportunities. And on the work you're doing, are we dealing more with problems or with opportunities?
That's a very good question. I think it depends on the project, and the project presents itself. For example, that project with the European Commission, which was initiated by the European Innovation Council, COVID, a crisis presented itself, and then we had an innovation, right? When most of the work that I do with the students, it's they see an opportunity, a challenge in their life, and they see it as an opportunity to innovate. It's not always a crisis, but there is always a gap that you need to fill. And this is where entrepreneurship fills that gap.
David. Yes, David. You better take this.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Dolly. That was very interesting. I have a couple of the first observation I want to make, triggered by one of the first things you said, was I have spent time in hotels in Spain and France, mainly Spain, and I have to say sometimes it's been very much a case of form over function. Stuff in bathrooms that just bloody doesn't work, but it looks good. And that's with due respect to your profession, some designers really put the cart before the horse in a bad way.
You are 100% right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with that and say no. I mean, the perfect example that comes to my mind is Philippe Starck, you know, a famous French designer. He designed a juicy salif, it's called, the lemon squeezer, a tripod. And the idea is that you would actually squeeze lemon from the top, and then the drop of lemon comes right at the bottom and then into the glass. You have to place the glass underneath the lemon squeezer. And it does not work most of the time because people do not know how to use it sometimes, but it still sells thousands of items that it's still sold, because sometimes the idea is not to invent something that does not work, but it's inventing a new technology. Because of this invention, the casting aluminium technology was created, because he made sure that when he designed this and built it, it was a cast aluminium from the top where you squeeze the lemon to the tripod. But to me, as a designer, what I instill in my students' head, the design has to be form and function. Otherwise, why are we wasting resources? If it's not going to work, who are you designing it for?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and that's a very valid point. Thank you.
In fact, I had one project I worked on where it's a bit hard to describe. My business partner in this particular venture, I was to do the electronics, he was to do the case. And I thought, this is back in the day of injection molding. We didn't have 3D printers.
Yeah.
So anyhow, he hired a design firm in Collingwood, I think it was, to design this case. And I went into a meeting early one morning and met with these guys. And these were guys that didn't have collars on their shirts and they didn't have numerals on their watches. They were designers. And they said, we're going to make this case out of expanded polyurethane foam. And I said, well, how does that work? And they explained, you sort of make a silicone mold, you put this foam stuff and it expands and hardens. And then we're going to do the top, we're going to get a piece of aluminium and bend it and a friction fit on the sides of this case. And I said, what's the tolerance on that polyurethane foam? About 1 millimeter. So you want to friction fit a cover onto something that's got a 1 millimeter tolerance. They were designers. That's when the project I learned about canoe clips, or little push-in clips that you drill a hole and you stick it in and it holds it all together.
But does it look good?
It looked fantastic. We didn't sell very many of them, but we looked good, yes. You're quite right. Yeah. Just another observation. Sorry, I'm not really asking you a question, Ian, but you did trigger a memory about sensors. I mean, I've been into sensors all my life. Back around about circa 1972, my then boss said to me one day, he said, David, he who, because all engineers were he's in those days, he who masters sensors, the world will be his oyster. Now, that has just changed. It has changed so much, largely because of the what's driven by these things.
Yeah.
These things are stuffed full of sensors that are based on nanotechnology, the same technology that makes the chips. And on eBay, I can buy for $2 something I couldn't even dream of.
Yep.
40 years ago, and it is something you make. And you can come here in here in the maker room, and you can use sensors to make stuff till the cows come home.
There you go. And that's something that we need to promote. That if you need sensors, please come to the PC user group. Make your own, Warrego Road.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have made my own sensors too.
Dolly, what's the secret, apart from having a pandemic, of running a hackathon, then a matchathon, and then a lunchathon?
People, motivation, and technology. So if you've got the right platform that can hold thousands of people, like this hackathon, and you've got the right purpose, the right mission, and people believe in this mission, and you allow them the room to innovate with no interruption, then the sky is the limit. So when you decide to do that, Kirsten, just let me know. Happy to help. Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
That is a very good question.
Yeah.
I believe, I can't answer that question because I don't know the answer. But, yep. But I know that it actually made a lot of headlines and, it became like a social media frenzy. So probably that's why the Twitter, when Twitter was around. But I'm not sure if you remember the Twitter dress that created a lot of debate on color, whether it was black or gold.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I do.
So probably that was a follow-up from that one,
Yeah.
my presumption.
So that, for context, it just depended on who looked at it?
On who looked at it, the technology. So probably that was a follow-on from that phenomena. And I'm making a big presumption here.
One more question for me. Why China, France, and England? Was it?
It was France, China, and Australia.
Australia, yes.
Yeah.
Why the three?
This is where my career path took me. So when I left Australia to go and work in Dubai for a year, and a French school that I used to work with here in Australia asked me to go and lead the food design lab. I said yes. I didn't know anything about food design, but I said yes. And I moved to France to actually lead that project. And then they asked me to go to China to do workshops, and they liked what I was doing, and it kind of was centered around the three countries, just by accident, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten. I just thought of a question triggered by that China thing. Two questions, actually. In China, I assume you were doing it all in English?
It's in English, but I promised my students to learn Chinese. So I'm learning Chinese. It's all in English, but I've promised my students to learn Chinese.
How's that going?
It's going well. I can say ni hao ma in Chinese. I can say xie. So, because I'm in their country, so I have to be respectful and learn their language.
Certainly show that you're trying. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You mentioned about the Chinese being actually very innovative and very progressive in their technology, and we discussed off stage that thing about the electric cars and stuff like that. Now, we also know that the Chinese have a very different attitude to patents and intellectual property than we have. And we see the clashes happening on Facebook and elsewhere because of that. To what extent do you think that different attitude towards intellectual property is contributing to the advanced innovation in China?
That is a very good question. There are two layers in this. Layer number one, Hangzhou being the capital of entrepreneurship and having Alibaba right next door, they actually have a value for patent and for intellectual property. Giving you one example, that when I was actually talking to one of my students, he said, I don't want to show my idea to anyone because I would like to have a business out of this. So I encourage my students all to go and register the patent straight away, the idea, whether it's viable or not, it might become viable. So this attitude, although there's a stigma behind the intellectual property in China, is changing a lot because of the entrepreneurship culture that's being instilled in the innovators, especially that with design. I led the mission of designed in China, not made in China. And with this attitude, there's a pride in designing something new. But the reason why technology is so advanced in China is there's a huge push for innovation. And Privacy Act, although I do appreciate that as a protector to our cybersecurity and to a lot of our platforms, can be a hindrance sometimes in innovation. So that's another reason why technology is quite advanced in China, because, just to give you an idea, that I ordered fruit on a pavement, I did not have an address, and the delivery reached me. Now, in Australia, that would not be possible, but because there's minimum Privacy Act, hindrances over there, and a lot of innovation being poured, or a lot of support being poured into technological innovations, and encouragement, especially with, plus the entrepreneurship education in all the universities, you find that there is a huge, huge innovation in technology. And I've got smart students too. So.
Thank you. Kirsten.
Can you explain more about textiles detecting diabetes?
Yes, so this project, it was done with silk fiber. I try to use traditional material as much as possibly can, or encourage the students to use them. So it was a kind of similar technology to this one, but very basic. It was a wristband that was a patch. So they weaved the actual sensors with the silk fiber to create a detection for, low sugar. So it was a wristband, like, the Fitbit that you would actually use. Yeah. Yeah. Can't explain more because they're in the process of getting their patents and getting it, out into the market. If you want it to, it can, but it depends on the sensors that you put in there.
I guess sometimes the technology behind to support an innovation is fairly simple, and other times it's rather complex. And I used to work in the food industry, and I'm thinking of the humble tin can, and which was a fundamental development at its time. Now we think it's such a simple throwaway thing, but the engineering, the engineering behind that, and the accuracy with which it's got to be made is quite fantastic. It really is something to watch the cans being made.
100%. Many of the things that we take for granted, they've changed our life and revolutionized our lives. I mean, if you think about the tin can, it was made for the, for the army, for long voyages in the sea, right? So the actual preserving the meat, the fish, whatever it is, for people going on big trips, for example, the army. And these little inventions, we don't think about them, but there are new technologies. Without the new technology, this would not have happened, right? With the mass production of food, mass manufacturing, mass transformation of food, all the equipments behind that to make this happen. You are absolutely right. Little inventions like I was mentioning the pen invention. You know, what a great invention that is. Yeah.
Yes, I can remember when I was at primary school, the biro, the first ballpoint pens were invented. They were called biros, and for many years we didn't use the word ballpoint pen. It was a biro, and they weren't quite as good as the modern ones because they tended to leak, and you'd have it in your pocket and you get ink in your pocket. But eventually they became very cheap throwaway items, don't they?
Yep. Even if you think about it now, plastic, you know, has become a very bad word to actually use plastic. And at the time it was created to save the elephants because of the, you know, the white ball when you're playing billiards. Many elephants were being killed to actually use that.
For the ivory.
The ivory, yeah. So they invented plastic to save the extinction of the elephant, and now it's the other way around, where plastic is harming the planet when it was actually invented to save the planet.
Yes, piano keys were all ivory, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Many of the products were ivory, and that's why they invented plastic to replace the ivory. So something that simple, the plastic invention has revolutionized the way that we live, the way that we eat. We can eat out, we can have delivery, packaging.
How has AI affected your profession?
Wow, yes. There's a huge debate going on at the moment with AI for artists, for designers, for innovators. And yes, it can design, definitely. It can go through the design process. But I'm still old-fashioned in the regards of, and even for writers, right? You can actually get the AI to write anything you want. My take on this, there's a lot of experimentation happening now in design, but my take in this, because design and innovation and art and writing comes from deep in the soul of the human being, and it's an identity imprint to me when I'm actually, because I can't draw and I'm a writer, so I love writing. If I will never give my AI something that is close to me to write, because it will not have my spirit in it. It will not have my identity. It doesn't matter how beautiful it will sound. Probably it will sound better than I would have written it or I would have designed it, but it will not have me as a person in there. But that might be the future, that we lose the specificity and the individuality in the future. Yeah. Any questions?
Well, we seem to have run out of questions, Dolly, and we thought of one design which is backed by some very important technology, and we thought you might like it. As we say, thank you very much for coming and for your thought-provoking, I think, talk, and really appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for the lovely and thoughtful gift.
Sorry.
And for those who are listening on Zoom, yes, it is alcohol.
Okay, we're going to, Jeff Amor. Jeff's got a presentation for us on the subject of Be Connected. Jeffrey.
All right, thank you, Barry. Oh. Hi. So my name's Jeff Amor. I'm looking after the Be Connected group. Since April in 2022, we started doing this. Looks like the computer's taken over. Yep. So we started the Be Connected group. We actually got a grant from the government to do this as part of the Be Connected organisation, I guess, and that allowed us to run for 12 months, where we had people coming in every Wednesday and helping people off the street, plus members, to actually learn a bit about their devices. So over the years, we're still doing it. We do it on 2 Wednesdays in the month now. So we sort of had to cut it back a little bit, mainly because of the use of our members on that to actually present it. But where were we? Yep. So we do some advertising through the Glen Iris News. We also advertise with the I think it's the City of Kingston with their online newspaper. But what we find is there I don't think we've had anyone that have actually read about us online and then come along. Whereas with the Glen Ira magazine, which is actually a bit of paper, people tend to have that sitting in their lounge rooms, and they'll have it highlighted and that, and then come in and see us. Yep. So the whole premise of it is that the Be Connected organisation, they have a lot of training courses which are online. So people can use those without even coming into to us or anyone else for that matter. But we've found most people prefer to actually come in with their piece of paper, with their list of questions on how do I do this, how do I do that, and we spend the time explaining to them on to respond to that, to help them use their devices. Some people are maybe older people who are being given a brand new iPhone which sings and dances and does all sorts of things, but they find it hard to do a text message because that's quite complex in the way you got to do it, or it's just not what they're used to. So people come in off the street in response to the advertisements that we've been putting out, and we spend time with them. And usually, rather than saying, hey, sit down on the computer and do a course, they're more, like, what they prefer to do is actually talk about it to a human. And that's where there's a number of us who are part, from the radio club, or not the radio club, sorry, the MelbPC club, who, I guess give up our time to actually provide the answers to those questions. So the benefits for us as members is I think enormous. We get to learn a lot because people ask some difficult questions, or they might ask questions about something that we've never really explored. So there's usually at least 2 of us on of a Wednesday when we're here. And for example, I'm probably more of an Android person. John Sims, one of the other guys, he's more of an Apple person. So even if someone comes in with a question that we may not be able to answer, between us, we can usually, and a bit of Googling, we can usually provide some answers to the questions that they're putting forward to us. So it really is a great benefit to both of us, I guess, to the people that are coming in and also to ourselves. With the people that have come in, we've had probably a steady number of people that have been coming over the last few years that we've been running it. There have been some members or some people that have joined up to the MelbPC club, which is great. We've even had some people who are ex-members, and they've come back to the club, and they sort of walk into this building and they go, whoa, geez, I haven't been, or they have never been here. They're here at they went to South Melbourne or maybe Chadstone, but they haven't actually been to these premises. So when they walk in and see what's here, generally they're blown away, And so we've had some members that have actually decided, or ex-members, sorry, that have decided we would return, just based on that, which is fantastic. Now, I guess why I'm talking is because I obviously want to raise the visibility of what we're doing. We'd love to have more members coming along to help. It doesn't have to be a permanent commitment. As long as we know that we know who's available, we can ensure we've got at least 2 people in here, so that if we get a couple of people coming in for assistance, we can handle it no problems. If we get 9 people, which has happened, come in, we're not sort of like inundated, you know, so that we can actually work through the different ones and help everyone that comes. So another aspect of it is that I'm sure a lot of the members of MelbPC, why they might not see a need to come in, they may be part of organisations that are looking to help their members understand technology better. So, you know, we're open to the public as well as members. So if anyone that we can help, you know, that's the whole idea of Be Connected, which is the government saying, hey, we've made everything more complicated. We've gone down the technology path, and we understand that not everyone is comfortable with it. So we've sort of put our hand up to say, well, yeah, we'd like to help people to actually understand the technology. A classic now is the number of people come in that have said, look, my bank tells me I have to use an app on my phone. And it's just like, what, you know, why are they doing this? So they'll come in here and we help them understand exactly what the app can do for them, and you know, but basically it's back to the bank then to get it all set up. But at least we can help them understand more about it, and it's also not as scary for them, you know. It's something they can get their head around, hopefully, by the time they've left. Yeah.
You can tell them what questions to ask the bank.
Exactly, yeah. Because I'm not sure if people here have had experience going to the bank and asking about some of the technology that's been placed upon them. The person behind the counter is quite often not au fait either. So to go to the bank and ask asking the right questions is sometimes what helps them a lot and actually get on top of it all. Yeah.
Jeff, most of the people who come would be local to this area then?
A lot are, yeah, that's right. Some come from across town. I don't know, you know, off the top of my head, I'm not sure exactly the location, but certainly a lot of them are coming from around this area. Yeah.
Some contact you online, or is it all in person?
It's all in person. Yeah. I guess we complement the iHelp desk, because with iHelp, you know, members can actually contact iHelp over the phone, and those guys, I think it's guys, I don't think there's girls there, but that group can then help people remotely, which is, you know, just fantastic. But for some people that iHelp might be helping, it's nothing like actually being with the person and asking the questions and that, rather than trying to do it online. So it sort of complements the iHelp team as well. If people have sort of gone as far as they can doing it remotely, then they can say, well, if you want to bring your computer or you want to ask some questions of the team, of the people in here on the Wednesdays, yeah, we're here.
It's a great service to be providing to the public, I think.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's satisfying, and we've had people come in where the husband and wife will come in, and usually the wife's going to the husband, oh, go on, ask the questions, and then, you know, they'll come back again because they've realised there are a lot more questions that they had that they didn't ask us. So yeah, we get some good feedback from it. Yeah. So I'm not sure if there's anyone else out there that would like to ask questions.
I can't see any questions on the computer.
Yep, no one's put their hand up.
Well, I'm really pleased that you have told us about this, because I had no knowledge of it at all. And I'm really pleased that our club is doing something as a service to the public.
Yeah, well,
in addition to the service to the members. I think it's great.
Yep, well, Stuart, I never pronounce his name, please someone pronounce for me, but it's Grunickley. Yep, one of our very active members. He's the guy that started all this off. He got the initial grant together with the committee, got the grant from the Be Connected group and started the whole ball rolling. But we've certainly, yeah, had a lot of people come back with questions, and certainly, you know, people that have been quite helpful, or not helpful, sorry, but quite grateful what we've done for them.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jeff.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Got my notes here. Okay, I'm going to keep this fairly short and brief because I've been told to keep it very short and brief. which lets me off the hook with a lot of stuff, I think. First of all, and most importantly, Bill Moss, would you please come up here? Abandon the bio box, come up here. Bill. Bill has been working quite diligently in the office for a while. He fronts up every Friday morning as an office volunteer, regular and reliable. He helps to adjust the microphone, which is the thing. He's the AV man, isn't he? He's the man. He's been doing YouTube operas, although recently Karen is a new member, has been doing that. And he's a very important part of the AV team. So as Volunteer of the Month, I'd like to present you with this beautifully laminated award and a JCar gift card for $50. Well done. Well done. You want to say something?
Not really.
Good. Fine. Okay. Moving right along here. I also want to mention as well Kirsten, she's not getting a reward because she's on the committee, but Kirsten is doing an excellent job with her secretarying and organising speakers and on all that sort of stuff. We don't always see 100% eye to eye, but I think we can resolve our philosophical differences fairly amicably. So, Kirsten, we do appreciate what you're doing, rest assured. Now, there's one other major item that I need to mention to you. That is Malin, our office lady. Malin has been away in Sweden for 2 or 3 months or something like that. 3 months. And in the process of that, the agency through whom we were employing her, somehow or other, I don't know the full story and it's a bit too gory to bother, they folded and they handed over their business to another agency. That agency contacted and said, come on, you've got to sign up, and we want what do they call it, a license over your property or a charge over our property, which sounded like handing them to the keys to the castle. So we told them exactly what to do with their charge. And long story short, we have now employed Malin directly on initially a 3-month contract, which will give us breathing room to sort out what's going to happen. And in the process of hiring her directly, we save something north of $10,000 a year, I think, in fees to the agency. There is a small charge. Peter and his wife have discovered, Peter, our treasurer, his wife has discovered or unearthed or told us about a couple of services. One, for a very modest fee, will do virtually all of the statutory work that is required and make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So that will be done for, I think, $27 a month or something silly like that, using all part of the QuickBooks deal. And what remains is about 20 minutes tops a week for Peter or somebody within the committee to just do the bank transfers and the final little finalisation of everything. Now, we have sort of had some people who have been severely bruised in the past from shenanigans from 5, 6, 7 years ago. But the difference here is that Malin will not be doing her own payroll and accounting and what have you. So it's being done at a sort of, what's it called, third party, hands off. And Malin is also exceedingly trustworthy as well. So we're giving it 3 months and we'll review that sort of starting a month and a half from now, I suppose, see how it's all going. Okay, one final thing. We haven't had a newsletter for a while, and that's all due to Malin being away, to Hugh resigning for family reasons. I was away and I had my dramas with my travels and so on. But we're finally getting around to a newsletter, hopefully in the next few days. Malin is heading that up, I'm providing her input. In fact, I've stalled her a little bit and said, look, I need time to do a president's report and a couple of other things. I'm starting a new column in there, which I'm calling SITSVAC. And that's going to be actually advertising for volunteers with specific tasks. We need someone to do some painting. We need someone to do change some light bulb, whatever it is. So people can be offered, if you like, things to do that they might say, oh, that's something I can do, rather than this more generic, if you can do something, come along and help us out. And we're just going to see how that goes. The first one will have an entry for Jeff with his, he mentioned about the Be Connected thing, to try and get some more people to put their hands up to volunteer for that. And there's 2 or 3 other things there that I'm working on at the moment. So we'll see how that goes. That's about it. There will be a much longer and detailed presence report in the newsletter when it comes out. So, what do I go for time?
Good.
Wonderful. Yep, you can have the final 10 minutes back. There we go.
Thank you, David. One of the things we like to do at this central meeting, I call it, is to promote some of the other activities of the club. And we heard before from Jeff Amor about Be Connected, and we often hear from the iHelp people, and Harry's got something to, Harry Lewis, we're hearing from later. But now John Hall is, who's online, is going to tell us what happens at Wadham House at Mount Waverley, which I go to when I can. John, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, so I can get started.
Go for it, John.
Okay, thank you. Right, let's start sharing the screen, and hopefully you can see that. So Control Alt Shift and hide. I'll get rid of my controls. So those smiling faces that you saw just now, and they'll be back again, are the SIG leaders of Wadham House. There's myself, David King, George Scarbeck and Kelvin Cording. Kelvin gave a very good presentation on the North East SIG, which he had fully animated. I'm a bit lazy. I'm just going to try and wing it from our website. So basically, I'll give you some insight into our meetings at Wadham House. Wadham House is a community house which is owned by the Monash Council. We're at 52 Wadham Parade, Mount Waverley. I'll just click on their website so you can see it's a craft activity and cultural centre, and that's us amongst some of the other groups that meet there. We meet there every Friday of the month, but we only have meetings on the first and third Fridays that go out on Zoom. The rest of the time, a few of us are always there. And we had a nice visit last Friday from Jeff Keenan, who used to be treasurer at one time for us. So that was quite nice to catch up with them. So, as I say, although we only have Zoom meetings twice a month, if you have any problems that you'd like to discuss, any technical things that you want to talk about, then feel free to come in on a Friday around about 10 o'clock. So the way that Wadham House SIG has come about, so this is our menu on the left. If you come in via the MelbPC website and look up SIGs by location, we're in the east section. We used to have 4 groups. That's why we meet every Friday. We used to have multimedia, hardware, video production, and digital imaging. but we found it very difficult to keep finding material, to keep those groups going. So basically now we have what was sort of the multimedia group and the digital imaging SIG. I'll get into more detail on that. We like to talk about technology, but we generally talk about what members are interested in. And we had a really good talk recently from George Scarbeck and Margaret Brown on their brand new electric vehicles. So we try and keep our subjects as topical and relevant as we possibly can. This month, there's going to be a talk by George Scarbeck on what's new, and that will normally he takes about half of the first half of the meeting, but he's got so much to talk about this month that he's going to take the whole. So it's going to be intriguing to find out exactly what he's going to be telling us this month. So there we go. That's about us. These are the meeting details. So this is, we have usually about 15 to 20 people in the room and probably another 25 to 30 on Zoom. So it's quite a well-attended group. As I said, the first Friday of the month is on. It tends to be anything, anything technical. And the third Friday is definitely for digital images, which started by Ian Bock. Ian Bock still actually attends that meeting, but George is running it in the main. And Ian must be about 93 now, I think, something like that. And is still very active. So we've got a few members that have been with us from well in the 1990s and whatever. If after this talk you feel that you would like to join in the Zoom meeting, I've actually put a link on our webpage so that you can actually subscribe. So you can see this is what I'm subscribed to. I'm subscribed to the East SIG, North East Android SIG, Wadham House SIG, and after Fleur's talk, I subscribed myself to the website SIG. So if you just click on subscribe, you will get a reminder. And I've left the reminders deliberately late this month so that if anybody watching this wants to get sent a reminder, if you do it immediately after the meeting, I'll be sending out the reminder email and all the links tomorrow morning. So the Wadham House, if you actually want to attend in person, it's just behind the Mount Waverley Library. There is parking behind the library, but we have to limit that, and we do have stickers that you'll have to put in your car. Otherwise, you might get a fine. But because the council are very hot on parking there. But anyway, feel free if you do want to come along. We've got some spare stickers, and we can. We've had the situation before where we've multi-parked and whatever. So so there we are. And again, you can find that from that link on the website. One of the main attractions for some of us is that we go to lunch at a place called the Great Eastern Haka, which is just around the corner in the main road, just the other side of Mount Waverley railway station. And that's got a set menu. Again, you can have a look at that menu. I won't go into it at the moment. The topics of interest. As I said before, we had multimedia and a few other things, but recently we've been getting into things like AI, and we've had a really good presentation by Kelvin Cordin on AI, and another good one from George. And George actually compared some of the AI tools and some of the services that were provided by Microsoft and others. Obviously, we've still got our leaning on multimedia and home theatre. One topic that I'm particularly interested in is digital legacy. In other words, when you leave this world, what are you going to leave behind for people to pick up? And I'll just, under presentations, I'll just give you an idea of what I'm talking about there. Kelvin and I are both interested in 3D graphics and animation, and we're tending to talk about that on the second Friday of the month. So if you're interested in 3D graphics and animation, feel free to come along on that second Friday, and hopefully we can start a little group going on that. We've got live streaming from Wadham House, which is pretty successful, I think. But one of the things that we want to do is to do live video capture. One of the problems that we're doing at the moment is we're capturing via Zoom, and Zoom is limiting the amount of space that they're giving to us. So we are looking at capturing that locally. I mentioned green energy and electric cars. One of our other members, John Argall, as some of you might know, and John must be 94, 95. John's whole house is green. He's got a massive bank of solar panels. He's also got a battery, and he's got an electric car. And when he was asked how he justified all that, he said, "I'm 95, I don't have to justify anything." And the other thing that we've had talks on in the past, and we might do some more on in the future, is home automation by who shall not be mentioned, because I've got one sitting next to me and she might answer if I mention the names. One of them we call Anushka at home, because that's what my brother-in-law called her, and she never answered to him, and he couldn't understand why. So those are things that we're talking about, and we're talking about in the future. If you have anything else that you would like us to talk about, then just click on this link, send it to us. It comes to all four of us, and one of us hopefully will have some knowledge of it and do something on that subject for you. I mentioned the presentations. We've been going for quite some time, as you can see down here, 2014. So we've got presentations right back to that stage. A couple of them from Kelvin and whatever. The latest presentations that we've been doing this year, I mentioned digital legacy. I gave a talk to both Wadham House and the East SIG on digital legacy. So if you want to see that talk, all you have to do is simply click on it, and it will start playing. Now, first of all, an apology to those of you that have already, and you don't want to listen to me, but what was interesting when we're talking about Be Connected is I've actually put the PDF of my talk so that you can download that. So digital legacy essentially is any personal data, photos, or anything else that you created, or any legal data that people might need access to after you've gone. And so there's some guidelines on how to do that. And one of them, now, as I say, you can download this PDF, and you can click on the links from the PDF. And one of them is from Be Connected on how to prepare your digital legacy plan. So I can thoroughly recommend, even if you don't want to watch my video, let's go back to this. If you don't want to watch my video, then you can download the PDF and work through those links yourselves. Another, as I said, we talk about subjects that are of interest to people. I think it might come under the subject of live streaming, but David King has given us 2 really good presentations on microphones recently, and it was so interesting that it was threatening to go into lunchtime, so I called a halt to it because we didn't want to delay our lunch. So David came up with part 2, which he did not repeat anything from part 1, and I found part 2 just as interesting. On that note, he has talked about David King's playthings. If we now I won't go into that one because it takes us a while to get into that site. But basically, this Friday, David will be doing David King's Playthings Part 2. And I can assure you that Part 1, if you want to go into that site, I just don't have time tonight because of the time constraints. And there's another good one on George's talk on how to prepare a PC for sale. So if I just click on that one, this is a simple Word document. And he prepared this for one of our members who wanted to get rid of a PC and wanted to know what to do before they got rid of it. So you can just click on that. The other thing that we've got on our website is some useful links. As I mentioned, we go back a long way. So we've got some stuff that one of our friends, Graham Ackland, actually put up there some time ago. There's some video editing links that I put up there. But the current material, those people that joined the Digital Images SIG, most of us use the Farstone photo viewer and editor. It's a brilliant little product. It's free. It's amazing what you can do with the photos. And quite often George will give us a talk on how to use Farstone if you ask him nicely. And from my point of view, from the video editing, there's a couple of really good video editing programs. One is DaVinci Resolve, but it's got an incredibly steep learning curve. This one, Shotcut, is a freebie. It's from shotcut.org. So hopefully it's going to stay free, being a .org organisation, and it's got heaps of videos on YouTube on how to use it. So virtually anything you want to do with that. Again, if you want to download videos, if you want to do some quick re-encoding, if you want to clean up audio, one of our members does the videoing for his local church, and he has great pride in making sure that the audio of the vicar and anybody that's doing any talks at the church, you can hear them well. So there's a few things in there. And believe it or not, even Microsoft have got a free video editor. So those are useful sites that you can have. And as I mentioned once before, we've got this file repository. We can no longer store stuff on YouTube, on Zoom, because they're limiting the space. So we put this onto a file repository. The way you get into it is, if you're already logged in as a member, click on the big red bar, log in with Google, and you will find all of the files that we just don't have room to put on anything else. And in here, we've got David's Playthings. I'll just show you a very brief. So this was David's first talk.
Good morning.
And
this morning I want to show you some devices which I bought.
Let's go back. And this is the one that's going to be shown on Friday. So this is he's already uploaded that one to that site, and he'll be carrying on with part 2.
Good morning.
So there
This
you
morning
go.
I want to show you some devices which I bought recently.
So again, that's the end of my talk. Hopefully I haven't taken up too much time, and I'll stop sharing, I hope.
John, thank you. You haven't taken up too much time, and that was very interesting. As I understand it, the second Friday is when you've got a formal program.
No, the first Friday.
First Friday.
First Friday is a formal program.
Yes.
The third Friday is a sort of formal program. It's digital images. That tends to be members showing some of their photos and so on and so forth, and talking about their techniques. So, yeah, George.
And the other Fridays are free-for-alls.
And the other 2 Fridays are free-for-alls, yeah.
Yeah. I like to go, not only because I only go to the first one of the month where you've got the formal program, but apart from the topics, I like to go because it's very valuable to meet yourself and the various other people there. We're a club, and you can only be a club if you meet each other and get to know each other and help each other. And doing it online, which everything we had to do during COVID, and still, you know, all our meetings are hybrid. We're so much better as a club if it's possible to be there in person, I think.
Yeah, well, that's basically why we're still meeting. We're virtually the same people that used to meet for the various Ripper and hardware SIGs back in the year 2000. So,
and the video editing.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite sure why we call it a SIG. It's really a JIG, isn't it? It's a general interest group.
It is, but for want of you know, standing out, we just call ourselves a SIG, and everybody else will be happy. So.
Well, you did a good job, John.
So I'm going to give you the basic principles that cloud drives work to. It should take only 5 minutes, and then be happy to answer questions. Here's the plan: to tell you what cloud drives are, to answer your immediate question, do you have one? To explain how cloud drives work, mention their advantages, and confront the issue how safe your data is. So a cloud drive is a personal file store you access using your internet connections. Do you have one? Yes. Everyone in this room probably has at least 2 cloud drives, a Google Drive and a Microsoft OneDrive. If you're not using a Windows computer, you will have an iCloud drive. But if you have a Windows computer, you're required pretty much to have a Microsoft account in order to use Windows, and that will include a OneDrive. How do you access these things? Well, they're all accessible through a browser, and in the deep history of cloud drives, that was the only way. So this is a web page. It's actually Chrome, and this is a Google Drive calling itself My Drive when you're there. On top left, you see the icon that Google uses for their cloud drive, and every member who has a MelbPC account with an MelbPC email address has a cloud drive associated with that email address, and the allowance there is 30 gigabytes of store. You can also see your cloud drive as a folder on your computer's desktop, and this is a little clip for my desktop, tied it up so that you can see 3 cloud drives at once. My drive there is the Google one. iCloud Drive is the Apple one. OneDrive is the Microsoft one. So how do they work? Well, the magic word here is synchronization. You do have, in effect, 2 locations where your files are. They're kept together by synchronization, which is a program doing the job. Keeps the folder in the cloud and the folder on your desktop in sync. Changes in one are echoed in the other. Both ways, 2-way, that's what synchronization does. How do you know the program is working on your computer? This is the example from Windows, because in the system tray, which if you've got a horizontal taskbar is way down on the right, all those tiny icons, you will have an icon for the active cloud drives you've got. So this one here happens to be the Microsoft icon. This one here happens to be the Apple icon for the iCloud drive. And you've already seen, it's a bit faint here, this is the Google icon. So you see those programs there when they are installed and working, and you access settings for the synchronization by clicking on those icons. So what are the advantages of using these things? Files are still in the cloud for you if your computer fails. Through a browser, you can access your files from other devices, not only through a browser, but there are apps for the cloud drives for mobile devices like phones and tablets. The facility to share files online is provided by the cloud environment, and it's by now much commoner to send, if you want to send a large file by email, you will be invited to use your cloud drive as the vehicle, where you will then email a link and the receiver will be able to click the link to get the file. Finally, the cloud drives retain a short-term archive of deleted files, so you can recover files you've deleted within 30 days. And that 30-day statute of limitations is very common for these services, not only cloud drives. So finally, is your data safe? Well, the quick and easy answer is it's just as safe as data held online in your email account. In fact, both Apple and Google store your email in your cloud drive, and you can see pretty progress bars with different colors showing you how much of your cloud drive is being used for email. Microsoft happens to have a different system where the allowance for storage of email is separate from the OneDrive cloud drive. The data itself is stored on multiple servers in different locations that are well protected against physical attack. Any questions?
Yes, how much Google Drive space do each of our members have, Harry?
Well, the story is that we have twice what you've got for a personal Google Drive, so 30 gigabytes.
That's quite a big amount of space. I don't think people realise how much it is.
In my
certainly
experience
didn't.
with various members and others, one of the principal ways in which people run out of space is when they're storing photographs in the cloud, John. And here it's quite interesting because before, if you're just looking at the personal accounts, they've all got, well, personal accounts, they've all got those. Google and Microsoft, of course, have a whole business department, and we've been in both now. But in the personal department, Google gives you 15 gigabytes for everything. Microsoft give you 5, but then there's an extra allowance for mail. This is the free ones, right? Apple give you 5. And I suppose it's true that the portion of iPhone users versus Android phone users, I'm not sure what it is in Australia, but there are plenty of iPhone users who are otherwise Windows users who are happily snapping away with this extremely convenient camera, and they hit that ceiling very quickly. So, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Harry, I'd just like to make a quick comment. If you bust your Google Drive, and you'll get warnings that you're 95%, etc. full, you can get 100 gigabytes a month, but you pay for it. It's affordable. It's $2 and I think 48 cents per month for 100 gigabytes. Not exactly a fortune.
Right, George. Now that applies to the personal accounts.
Yes.
When we moved our online services from Microsoft to Google, our members are actually offered a similar enhancement service, and there may be 1 or 2 people in the room who took this up and have 200 gigabytes or whatever it is, but they closed the door on that within months of our switch over, George.
Thank you for the update.
Harry, actually, I had a question there. Where for Wadham House, we're looking at putting our future videos that John Hall was talking about a bit earlier on Google Drive. Once we get to 30 gigs, what's the sort of dollar cost would it be to increase that size by, well, let's say nominally another 20 gigs?
Well, I think we might take one answer to that offline, Calvin, but the thing is, I think maybe tonight Rob Brown isn't with us. I haven't noticed him. There is another way of looking at this, which is that the club is looking at enhancing central storage for certain club functions, which would be an alternative, but I don't know where that's got to.
Well, we are presently using NetCloud storage locally on a server at Moorabbin.
Okay,
Now,
that's the software, but it's the hardware is local. Okay, yes.
Yeah, but we're finding it much easier for users to get access directly to Google Drive.
Right. Okay.
And but we're likely to fill that up for Wadham House account by, well, we're probably about 20 gigs now.
Right.
But if we keep continuing to use it, we're faced with a potential dollar cost once we go over this 30 gigs. And I was a bit interested to get some feeling for what the dollars say for another, say, 20 gigs or something on that Google Drive.
What I just said was that the option to enhance the storage of a single account by giving money to Google was taken away from us. But there are other ways of solving the problem, right? So I'll have a quiet word afterwards if you like.
If you can get your requirements to me, I'm reviewing most of our systems as we speak.
Well, I think, Sean, the biggest problem is logging into it, as John Hall was demonstrating. When you have to click on that red Google Drive, in many cases people can't get into it, and that's the problem.
But that one wasn't a Google Drive.
No,
that's this NetCloud that I think it was set up as a separate server downstairs, Sean. So yeah, it needs looking into anyway.
Harry, I have one. David.
Yes, go ahead.
My phone seems to be linked to Google and 15 maximum. How can I shift that across to the 30 club storage?
Well, let's say not easily, because even if they were both personal accounts, Google places a Chinese wall between accounts. if I think if it was email, the answer would be use a client like Thunderbird or Outlook and use their connection by moving files over. In the case of non-email files, you use the client. Logically, it's the same thing, actually, David. On your desktop, you have two folders, one of them for one of the drives, one of them for the other. And in a Windows or Mac OS or Linux even, you can move files across the screen. And then the synchronization moves it back up into the cloud, right?
Okay, what you're saying is leave the phone on the 15 and just unload it.
Well, I think the device as such isn't the point, I think. The device is just another door into the cloud drive world. It's easier to do these transfers with a bigger screen, needless to say.
Mm.
And with a file manager like Finder or Explorer. I mean, one of the things that I've been noticing quite a lot is even if you've got a big screen on a tablet like an iPad, you don't get the same resources for managing files as you do on a computer. They've introduced the Files app, but it doesn't do all the jobs that we get free of charge on a computer, David. Can I answer the question you didn't ask me yet, which is what does the cloud look like? Is in Northern Virginia in the USA, which is known as Data Center Alley. Apparently 70% of all internet traffic goes through this region. The picture is a little bit clinical because you wonder what's going on. The fact is, although this isn't the same center, they've all got wires coming into them to connect them. These are what are called, oh, I've got the word in mind. Anyway, these are individual computers in stacks like this, with all it takes except for screen and keyboard and mouse and so on.
And use a lot of electricity.
Absolutely. And well, they use a lot and artificial intelligence is using more, isn't it?
Mm.
Now, because of artificial intelligence, I thought when I started working on this little job, I thought I ought to give you an informative diagram to show exactly how cloud drives worked. So I asked artificial intelligence to draw me a simple diagram.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is what I got. That's the prompt I used to Copilot. Draw a diagram showing a laptop computer with external USB drive attached. The laptop is connected by Wi-Fi to a router connected to the internet where it's linked to a cloud drive. And this is what it produced.
Oh, wonderful.
I thought these AI things were good at programming, but they're not very good at hardware, are they?
No.
You see these naked USB things and so on. Google was even more fun. The prompt was, show me a computer connected to the cloud, and here's one of its offerings.
Very good. Harry,
yes.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, we'll give you a clap on that, Harry.
Thank you.
And Harry, you're available for a general Q&A.
As ever, yes.
I'm about to formally close the meeting.
Right.
And then those who would like can continue online. And so I now declare the meeting formally closed.